According to this chart, my brothers and I were born in the middle of the baby boom generation. Our parents were considered part of the greatest generation, the ones who grew up in the roaring 20s, survived the Great Depression, and fought and won World War II. Our grandparents were part of what is for some reason called the lost generation, perhaps because many of them did not survive World War I, and those that did felt left behind by the rapid changes of the 20s, 30s, and 40s. The birth rate increased dramatically after World War II for a number of years, resulting in a baby boom, and by sheer numbers we became a force to be reckoned with. In our family, though, the main battle was with my father's continuing alcohol addiction. My mother kept us together as a family at a great cost to her own happiness and sanity, it seems. At 14 years old, I still explored my favorite forest and Norrichon Creek, including the spot Bobby Stevens and I called Knife Island. Next to the abandoned railroad track, I found a pile of shale rocks dumped long ago. It was full of plant fossils similar to these here. I had also explored a number of old rock walls near our neighborhood, and even found a trilobite fossil in one rock similar to this one. I brought these fossils to school to show my 9th grade earth science teacher, Mr. Nagel. That year, I was also placed in an honors-level social studies class with Mr. Bernasconi. At one point, we all had to write individual research reports, and I was proud that mine got top honors in the class, a report comparing Christ and Muhammad. Steve was in 5th grade at George Miller Elementary School. I'm not sure how his face got desecrated in his class picture that year, and I hope it wasn't me. He was doing well now academically, as seen in his report card. Philip's 2nd grade report from St. Margaret's showed he'd been doing quite well, but when he got to 3rd grade at George Miller School, things took a turn for the worst, as he explains here. Boredom with so much repeated curriculum really frustrated him. Sometime that year, we also got a new kitten, who we named Patches. In the summer, Mom drove us up to Lake DeForest, where we could go fishing. Steve seems to have done the best. I remember being fascinated with the Red Rock Quarry cliffs off in the distance. Though Dad's addiction and his revoked driver's license were definitely limiting factors in our family's activities, and clearly frustrated Mom, she still managed to plan some educational travel for us boys. We spent a few days in Philadelphia, exploring museums and Independence Hall with the Liberty Bell. The family's finances were improving. We even upgraded our family dinner night out to McDonald's Steakhouse in Park Ridge instead of W.T. Grant's. Mom also attended more Broadway shows, sometimes taking one of us with her. And I was a bit surprised when she agreed to take us all to see the Beatles movie, Help, at the drive-in. Though not a fan of their music, Mom did enjoy the comedy, the costumes, and the exotic locations. In 1965, our Aurora racing car set was retired, and instead the recreation room gained a pool table. Our house then became quite popular with the neighborhood kids as we all became pool sharks. Board games such as Risk were also popular at that time and kept us busy for hours. In the summer, we were frequently found at Lake Nanuet, well within our new expanded walking distance. Also that summer, Mom and my brothers again visited our grandparents in Cleveland, while Dad watched the house and the cats. Despite his ongoing problems, he still managed to go to work in New York City every day, by way of the local bus and train. During this time, I attended my 3rd and last year at 4-H Pines summer camp. I even snuck out of camp with some other guys and explored the Neversink River for nearly a mile further downstream. I believe the 3 courses I took then were first aid, swimming, and counselor in training. In fall of '65, Steve started 6th grade at the new Nanuet Middle School, learning about scheduled classes and lockers and such. Philip still attended elementary school, and he continued to get into more mischief, probably to Mom's growing frustration. I started 10th grade, and though I got good grades, I developed some less than academic habits myself. This report card has a comment, number 10, from my biology teacher, Dr. Duffy, which indicated that I tended to waste time. My friend Bill Dunnett, seen here on the right, and I were often doodling and making mazes and such during class when we were bored. In 1966, I continued piano lessons with Mrs. Conks and started to write my own pieces for the piano, such as the one heard here. Though untitled, I think I may have had our wandering cats in mind for this piece. Steve and I are seen here next to the flowering crabapple tree, which only grew small, unedible apples. These photos were probably taken that spring. I especially enjoyed geometry class, and I did quite well as seen in the report card with nice comments from Mrs. Benny. 10th grade was also my last year of Latin class. I had learned a lot from Mr. Gustafson and also developed a lifelong interest in ancient history. The Latin Club that year even held some evening toga parties in the homes of some of my classmates. At one or more of these, I tasted an alcoholic drink for the first time, as the punch was at least lightly spiked. That spring, Steve was in robes as well, though not a toga. Instead, it was for his Catholic confirmation ceremony. That summer, Grandpa Louis Steinfort took Steve with him up to Canada for an extended fishing trip, and then to Cleveland, where he wrote this letter home, describing his finances and activities. He then returned home with Mom and Philip and I when we visited Cleveland soon after that. Also that summer, thanks again to our improved finances, Mom took the first of what became a lifetime of international vacations. While she was away, our grandmother, Kate Miller, stayed with us at Orchid Drive and helped out, cooking and doing her best to keep Dad and us boys out of trouble. On this first trip, Mom traveled with her mother, Felicia, and a close friend, Sue McWatt, whose husband had passed away a year or two earlier. They took a 10-day bus tour in Europe. They spent time in Italy, including Vatican City, and France, including the Eiffel Tower and Notre Dame Cathedral, and also some time in Switzerland, Luxembourg, and even some time in Monte Carlo in Monaco. They then visited London before flying back home. On that trip, Mrs. McWatt became good friends with a fellow traveler, Alfred Kahn, and they kept in close touch afterwards, and soon were married. That fall, two of Kate Miller's sisters from Aberdeen, Scotland, came to visit America, as seen here, with two other friends of hers, in the apartment on Rochambeau Avenue in the Bronx, where Kate still lived. The three Selby sisters also came up to Orchid Drive for a visit with Dad and our family. Kate also visited with us for a while at Christmas, as seen here when we set up our Christmas tree. In the winter of '66-67, construction of the new highway that was to go through the north end of our development was underway. The ground had been graded widely and ran downhill. It snowed and rained such that the dirt hillside was covered with a slick, snowy, icy covering, perfect for long rides on a sled. In early spring, our Cleveland grandparents visited. Grandpa Steinfort installed a basketball hoop and a backboard, turning the driveway into a small basketball court. Again, this became popular with all our neighborhood friends. Sometime in 1967, Mom traded in the Rambler Classic for a Plymouth Valiant like this one, though ours was white. The sticker price seems ridiculously low today, but that was still quite a sum back then. By now, Patches was full grown, and both of our cats got along well. In the second half of 11th grade, I joined the school's math league team. We traveled to various schools in Rockland County and competed against their math teams, solving math problems created by the various math teachers in the league. At the end of the school year, we all signed each other's yearbooks. Sean Elliott here indicates my growing reputation as a bit of a nut, I guess a nerdy class clown. Together with Bill Dunnett, we were noted for our verbal and visual puns, and for not taking anything too seriously. Bill was more of a cartoonist than me and included these drawings at the back of my yearbook. 11th grade was also the year I joined the music department, singing in the choir and taking music theory classes with Mr. Rapazzo. I really did learn quite a lot from him. It was during music classes that I also got to know Judy Fish, and we became good friends. I hoped it would become more serious than just friendship, though. She was the first girl I truly fell for. By 1967, Philip had joined the Handy Hands 4-H Club with Mr. Schubert, and he has good memories of those days in the high school art room, long before he was in high school himself. Sometime that year, Mrs. Conks decided I should continue my piano lessons with Donald Waxman, a piano and composition teacher in nearby Nyack. Though my piano technique did not progress much further, and has since declined, he did help me with my composing skills. As Philip recalls here, he and Steve and Mom spent some weekends that spring and summer up at Camp 4-H Pines. Mom's international trip for 1967 was to see the World's Fair exhibition up in Montreal, Canada. She took the whole family and we had a great time. It was interesting visiting a place where people spoke both French and English. Steve took these two pictures here, and we had a photographer there take this one of Ma Miller and her boys posing in a jail setting, a favorite family photo for many years. This was also the year my interest in classical music and opera developed through listening to Mom's record collection and through my friendship with a neighbor with similar interests, John Crinian. We were old enough to ride a bus to New York City and attend performances at the Lincoln Center venues. While in the city, I also discovered newspapers and magazines, which expanded my awareness of the current popular music scene. In June of 1967, the Beatles released their Sgt. Pepper album, and rock music was forever changed. It was one of the first albums I bought. Bill Dunnett and I both became avid Beatle fans. Very sadly, Kate Miller's health began to decline that summer, and by September she was hospitalized in nearby Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx, the same place her husband Tom Miller has spent his last days. Kate Miller was one of the sweetest, kindest ladies I ever knew, always focused on the positive view of things and ever faithful to Tom. I know she was quite lonely in her later years, missing him greatly. She passed away September 24th and was buried next to Tom at the Gate of Heaven Cemetery in Westchester County. You can still pay your respects today at gravesite 402 in section 45 there. My father, Alex, had lost both his parents now, and this of course affected him deeply, though I know he tried not to show it openly, nor did it help much in his ongoing problems with alcoholism. In the fall of 1967, I started my final year at Nanuet High School, my last year of riding a yellow bus to school, My last year of walking those long hallways, my last year in the cafeteria where I had eaten hundreds of lunches and/or toasted almond ice cream bars. At home, I spent time reading about different colleges I could attend, finally deciding on 3 I would apply to, hoping at least one would accept me. 2 were part of the New York State University system, Stony Brook out on Long Island, and Binghamton up north near the Catskill Mountains. The 3rd one was Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, where my mother had attended years before. Though it was more costly, if I went there I could live with my grandparents nearby, saving dorm and probably food expenses too. Here's my senior yearbook photo taken that fall. Meanwhile, Philip was starting 5th grade, his final year of elementary school, and Steve was starting 8th grade, his last year of middle school. He was working hard on his basketball skills at home as well. Here we see both my brothers getting out our snow tires ready to be brought to our garage man, where they were put on the car for the winter months. That winter, it was clear the basketball net had seen better days. But thoughts of yet another winter were wearing thin for our grandparents in Cleveland, a city known for some very harsh winters. Felicia and Louis began planning for an eventual move to a warmer place to enjoy the rest of their retirement. They mainly considered Florida and Arizona. Here we see Louis with a new fishing device, I believe, when they visited Orchid Drive that Christmas. These 2 photos may have been taken when they visited Florida soon after Christmas, checking retirement possibilities. Though he regrets it now, Philip realizes that his love of building model cars and such when he was young inadvertently helped Dad's drinking desires on Saturday mornings. Mom may have allowed Philip to go along, hoping he'd somehow help limit Dad's time at the bars. Making models was a good hobby for Philip. As an adult, he's become quite a do-it-yourselfer, fixing almost anything at home that he can take apart and repair. All of Steve's basketball experience on our driveway court helped him earn his way onto the Nanuet middle and later high school basketball teams. I'm sure Grandpa Steinfurt was especially proud of him. Though I started off 12th grade rather well academically, I did begin to get a bit lazy, or perhaps preoccupied with other things as the year went on. I didn't do as well as I should have in driver's ed either, and ended up failing my first driver's license test. Everyone who took driver's ed back then remembers the films we had to watch. Rather overdramatic, but I guess also effective.
A faded, stained program. It was the senior prom. A corsage. It might have been pressed in a family Bible, but now it lies wilted, shriveling in the sun. A grim reminder that for the girl who wore it, this was to be the last prom.
Considering my grades had slipped some during the first semester, I was surprised in January when I was elected to the National Honor Society. I'm not sure I really had shown such leadership or service to the school, though my overall scholarship was good and I was a bit of a character. In February or so, I found that I was accepted into all 3 colleges I'd applied to. But I ruled out Case Western Reserve because the Steinfurts were now planning to leave Cleveland that summer. I chose Stony Brook over Binghamton for its proximity to New York City, its better focus on science majors, and its relatively dramatic architecture. In March, we heard that Louis and Felicia had decided on Arizona and were looking to buy a house there soon. Also by March, John Crinion and I were listening to and attending operas in New York City fairly often, which is one reason I wanted my college to be close to New York City. Unbeknownst to me, Judy Fish was having problems with her home life that year, and decided to join some of her New York City friends who were going to San Francisco to join the growing hippie movement there. Many of us at school were shocked she had run away, and I was very fearful for her safety, based on what I was seeing in the news. Her older brother assured me, though, that she was okay and would probably return after a few weeks, but I still missed her and worried a lot. In early April, everyone at school was shocked by the murder of Martin Luther King. He'd been a hero to most of our generation. We admired his focus on change through peaceful protests, although some of the older baby boomers were already starting to stage more violent protests. Our family got more bad news in late April. On the 25th, there had been a rather late snowstorm in Cleveland, and Louis Steinfurst suffered a heart attack while shoveling his driveway. He survived, but he was told to rest at home for a month or more while recovering from it. Also in late April, Nanuet High School's music department staged a full-scale performance of the musical Guys and Dolls. I had a non-speaking role as a Texas tourist. Together with my wife, Evelyn Linderman, we provided some comic relief during scenery changes and actually got some good laughs and a lot of applause. In early May, Judy Fish returned from California, just in time to join me and much of the senior class on a field trip to New York City to see 2001: A Space Odyssey. We were all pretty much amazed at that movie, now considered the granddaddy of modern science fiction movies. Judy and I both were most impressed with the trippy light show effects during the last part. Later that week, I asked Judy to go to the senior prom with me, and she accepted. I was overjoyed. The evening of May 19th was the induction ceremony for Nanuet's new National Honor Society members. Mom was eager to watch me be inducted at the ceremony being held at a nice restaurant in Nyack. But she got a phone call that afternoon from her mother, Felicia, with the shocking news that Louis had just had a second heart attack out on the golf course and didn't survive this time. He had convinced his doctor he felt good enough to play a few rounds of golf that day, but pushed himself too hard and had to lie down from exhaustion on the way to the 13th hole. He lost consciousness and never got up, and medical help arrived too late. Mom was in tears all afternoon, but somehow decided that she and I would still attend the induction ceremony that evening. She believed that's what her father would have wanted. To this day, I'm still amazed she kept her composure throughout that whole evening's event. Louis's sudden death was a terrible loss for Mom and our whole family. He had been the dependable solid rock in her life, and a fine role model for myself and my brothers, especially Steve. His wife, Felicia, was of course devastated by this as well, but she was a strong woman and decided that she would still go through with their plans to move to Arizona, even if doing it alone. Again, it's what she believed Louis would have wanted. Louis was cremated, and his ashes were scattered at one of his favorite fishing areas at nearby Lake Erie. The senior prom was held only a week later. I chose an unusual tux for the prom, as seen here. For some reason, the location was across the Hudson River at the Hilton in Tarrytown. Judy and I made a bit of an odd couple, with quite the height difference, but we and everyone else had a good time. And though there were several after-prom parties lasting till the wee hours, two of which we joined for a while, None of the attendees got hurt or in trouble that night. Still, despite my strong feelings for her, Judy made it clear as the school year ended that she didn't want a more serious relationship with anyone yet, and that summer we pretty much drifted apart. She soon moved in with friends in New York City, and I did visit her there in the fall, but it was clear we were heading in different directions by then. New York City and many other places in America that June were seeing various protests and strikes by students, workers, teachers, and others. Most were peaceful, but some did get violent. Many people hoped to elect new leaders for the country, such as Bobby Kennedy, who drew large crowds everywhere. Many baby boomers considered him our best hope for America's future. Those hopes were shattered when he was shot June 5th in California, and he died the next day. Everyone at school was stunned.
He's gonna be one day anybody here. See my old friend Bobby. Can you tell me where he's gone? I thought I saw him walking up over the hill with Abraham and Martin and John.
We wondered what kind of a messed up world we were graduating into. Our graduation ceremony was held on June 24th. I know Mom and Dad were proud of me and happy I'd gotten this far in life, but I was somewhat sad, knowing myself and my friends would be going in different directions and wouldn't see much of each other again, instead moving on into our own unknown futures. Back then, there was no social media or email. Snail mail and relatively expensive phone calls were all we had. Soon after graduation, I spent a weekend at Stony Brook for what was called orientation. Lots of somewhat useful information about the dorms and the schedules, and tours of the campus and such. When I returned home, I was surprised to find we had a new member of the family. Patches, who had been spayed years earlier, had somehow given birth to one kitten. She hid him under a couch for several days before being discovered. We named him Timmy. Steve spent much of that summer playing basketball with his neighborhood friends, and Philip got to go to a camp in Haverstraw for a week, and also a day camp for much of the summer. He even won several medals, and got to ride a horse, too. Bill Dunnett and I got our first real jobs. We both worked at E.J. Corvette's department store on Route 59. This was a very popular store which had a great record department, and we both hoped we'd get to work in that department. But Bill was assigned to the men's clothing part, and I worked in the shoe department. I learned a lot about sizing people's feet. At the end of the summer, I used some of the money I had earned to buy a portable stereo system for my small but growing record collection, mostly 45s then. Also that summer, as planned, Felicia Steinfurt moved to Arizona to a retirement community called Sun City. But first she sold the house on Sheldon Street. She didn't want to take much from there to Arizona, so Mom and us boys drove to Cleveland and rented a U-Haul to save as many of the things Mom wanted to keep as we could fit in there. Some furniture, curtains, crocheted tablecloths, photographs, all sorts of stuff. And we then drove it all back to Pearl River, with me sharing much of the driving. So my first experience with long-distance driving was towing a U-Haul. My brothers and I were sad to have to say goodbye to the Sheldon house we'd grown up with as a second home. And Mom, of course, was even sadder, and her mother would now be living over 2,000 miles away. Felicia moved to Sun City and sent us pictures of her new house. It looked so different from what we had ever experienced. A sunny life in a desert climate with palm trees and such. Dad took this picture of Mom and us on our back porch that summer. You can tell Dad took the picture by the not-so-good framing. At the end of the summer, I registered for the draft, which all soon-to-be 18-year-olds had to do. I was glad I couldn't be drafted yet, since I was now a college student. Some of the graduates from my high school, though, were not so lucky, and a few never survived Vietnam. In the fall, I moved into my dormitory at Stony Brook along with 2 other roommates from Rochester and Buffalo, respectively. No cooking was allowed in the dorm, so we all ate via the meal plan in the cafeteria. Steve started high school that fall, walking the same halls I had recently left behind. And Phyllis started middle school. This is one of the first letters I wrote home from college, to Philip, who had sent me a nice pen. I'd given up handwriting by now and was back to printing. While I was home for winter break, I used more of my summer money to buy a reel-to-reel tape recorder. The first recordings I made were a number of my piano pieces. Most were not written down, just memorized. Tape recording was the only way I could preserve them at that time. You've heard 4 of these recordings in this chapter. Now that I wasn't home to help wash the dishes and shovel snow so much, I saw that Mom finally got a dishwasher machine and a snowblower. But the snow that winter got so deep that the snowblower wasn't enough. Philip had to knock down the snow with a shovel so Steve could then blow it off the driveway. I wasn't living at home much anymore, just summers and holiday breaks, like here at Easter time. In the summer of '69, Mom got the travel bug again and booked the whole family on a 7-day tour of England and Scotland, including a visit to Aberdeen to see Kate Miller's relatives. Mom had posted a map of London at home in the weeks before the trip, which I studied carefully, noting where our hotel was to be. So when we arrived there, the first thing I wanted to do was walk 8 blocks or so to find the Beatles' headquarters at 3 Savile Row. I took Steve along and we had no trouble finding it, picking up a newspaper along the way. I did forget to bring a camera, though. We waited outside with some other fans for only about 15 minutes when Paul and Linda McCartney walked out the front door on their way to dinner somewhere. Paul stopped long enough to give autographs, including this one on the paper I'd bought, the only paper I had. In less than an hour, we were back at the hotel, and Mom and Dad were quite surprised we'd actually met a Beatle. We saw other sights in London, including the Prince Albert Memorial, where Mom took this photo. Philip looked a bit worn out. The bus tour through England then included a stop at Stonehenge. Back then it was quite open and visitors could walk among the stones. It's much more restricted now. We saw lots of the English countryside, as well as Winchester Cathedral and various towns along the way. In Scotland, we stopped at Glasgow and Edinburgh, not realizing then that Grandpa Tom Miller had grown up in that very area, though Dad must have known. At the town of Ayr, I took these photos by the seashore, this one becoming another family favorite. When we got to Aberdeen, we departed from the tour for a day to spend some time with Dad's aunts and his uncle, Alex Selby. Here we see Mom and Dad with Kate Miller's 2 remaining Selby sisters. And here's the only picture of our whole Miller family taken during the trip, posing in front of the portrait of John Imlock, which Dad later inherited. We then finished the trip with some more time in London, enough time for me to buy Steve and myself tickets to see a new group that had just released their first album, called Led Zeppelin. We saw the 5:30 show on June 29th at the Royal Albert Hall, not knowing how famous they were soon to become. On July 20th, almost everyone in America stayed up late to watch the moon landing. Many people recalled President Kennedy's words earlier in the decade.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Later that summer, a friend from my days in the high school music department, Michael Folsom, and I spent several weeks using my tape recorder to make our own album of songs and instrumentals. We even took photos for a cover we made for the tape reel box. In mid-August, Michael and I and another friend were among the huge crowd who went to see the 3-day concert at Woodstock, about 90 miles away from Pearl River. We took a bus and ended up walking with our camping equipment for the last several miles due to the traffic-jammed roads. After watching Jimi Hendrix close the concert Monday morning, Mom drove up to pick us up that afternoon. In the fall, I returned to Stony Brook with a new roommate and his cat in a different dorm. Steve continued at Nanuet High School in 10th grade, and Philip in the middle school in 7th grade. Felicia Steinfurth, apparently not liking the heat in Arizona and missing being closer to our family, decided to move back to an apartment in Cleveland. And by the end of the 1960s, Timmy had grown up to be a very large and lovable kitty. It had indeed been quite a decade for the Miller family. In the 1970s, my brothers and I became part of the adult world, as we'll see in the next and final chapter of this program.